Hello, listeners. It's Friday, and with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to Friday, where the perfect word is boom shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka. Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, let's jump right into the stories while enjoying my morning cup of brew.
What are you going to enjoy today?
We didn't talk about it, so I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. It's water that's colored.
Peach tea.
Well, peach tea. It's definitely something. Well, let's go ahead and enjoy some morning peach tea with the stories I have for you today. For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, Am I the A-hole? I want my son to stop playing sports. Fake account. I, 42 male, have one son with my ex-wife. We have been divorced for 9 years. She has full custody. I get him every other weekend. My issue is that he has played soccer and bowling for years. It has interfered with my time. He seems to have something every Saturday. I asked his mom if he can take a break. She told me if I want him not to play, I have to tell him. So I called my son. He is 13. I told him that him playing sports is taking too much of my time. Plus, I don't like that he has broken 2 bones and countless bruises and scrapes. I am afraid people will think he is abused. Just 2 weeks ago, he showed up with 3 cuts on his leg. When I asked his mom, she was like, who knows? He's always out and about. So after I told him, he basically said he wants to keep playing, that soccer is his favorite and bowling is fun too. He basically told me I never go anyway, so it's no big deal. Now he is right. I never played sports, so I don't get the fun. I called his mom and said he wants to play, but I won't contribute anymore. I did say again that I don't like the idea of him playing. He has broken 2 bones. I did tell her I may consider talking to a lawyer. She laughed. Am I the a-hole?
Oh my lord. Friday starts off with this.
We're ready.
This is a spicy meatball. He's a terrible dad. I don't think just the surface level of that story is bad. You're definitely the a-hole, OP. The selfishness of which this reeks is terrible. You know, what's interesting is your son even says it, I think. You don't come to the events, but you want to spend time with him, but you're not coming to the events.
It's funny because our Redditors said they wanted more clarification on that. And he said he just goes to go pick him up after the whole thing's done.
Because he doesn't get sports. You
Correct.
are
exactly that, actually.
an imbecile. It doesn't matter if you get it. It's a really good way, and trust me when I say this, kids remember when you don't go to the things that they're doing. Events, concerts, what have you.
Plays,
as they're growing up.
Or shows.
They remember that you weren't there. It's something that just happens. So not only do you not do these things to just watch your son as he's getting older, participating in the things that he likes to participate in, then you make some weird thing up about how it's dangerous for your son to bowl.
And play soccer.
I guess everyone's allowed to have their opinion as a parent, but you actively sabotaging good things for your son just so you could spend time with him because it's taking away from your time with your son. What? You've won the worst parent award for 2023. That's bad. This one's easy. The OP is definitely the a-hole in this situation.
And all of Redditors also say that he is the a-hole. It's sort of been very lopsided when it comes to this viewpoint because a lot of people are like, you don't have to be interested in the sport. You just have to be there to support your child.
That's all, man. They just want you there.
Well, let's go ahead and go to our next story and let's see what this is going to entail. Am I the a-hole for telling my future in-laws that it's not a wedding gift unless it's given to both people and telling my fiancé I don't want to live in a house I don't own? My fiancé, 27 female, and I, 29 male, grew up very differently. I was an immigrant who moved here when I was 6, and we were definitely struggling a lot. My parents worked extremely hard to provide for me and siblings, and they always prioritized our education over everything. My dad always told me it was his dream to live in a house that he owned, since we'd always rented, and he couldn't save up enough since we were renting in expensive areas with good schools. Unfortunately, both of my parents passed away before being able to realize that dream. My dad passed away when I was 17, and my mom passed away almost 3 years ago due to COVID. My fiance grew up fairly wealthy, like private schools, designer clothes, 3 to 4 international vacations per year, flying first class and business class the whole way. I was able to attend college thanks to student loans, scholarships, and part-time jobs, which delayed my graduation a bit, while her parents were able to fairly easily cover all expenses themselves. However, I'm the last person to say that my fiance hasn't earned everything she's gotten. She's an extremely intelligent person, and besides funding her education, her parents are in no way responsible for her accomplishments. My fiance and I met 6 years ago when we started working at the same company, in the same position, at the same time, after graduating from college. We hit it off almost instantly, and it didn't take long for us to start dating. Both of us still work at the company. However, I've progressed through the career ladder a bit more quickly than she has and now make just over twice what she does. I'll be the first to admit that this is completely undeserved, and I've benefited from a lot of luck and definitely some sexism as well, since we work in a male-dominated field. Still, that has allowed me to aggressively attack my student loans, and once they were paid off, I put that into saving up for a down payment on a house as a way to fulfill my parents' dreams. I proposed about 6 months ago, and things have been great so far. However, this past weekend, we were at her family's house when her parents told us that for a wedding present, they were going to give us a house. My fiance was overjoyed, and although I was also happy, I wanted to know the details as well. Pretty quickly, her parents told us that the house would be in her name only, and that they expected us to sign a prenup to protect any and only pre-marriage assets, just in case. I was insulted that they thought I was after their money at all, since I make more than she does anyway, and I ended up telling them that they can't call it a wedding present if they only give it to one person. I then told my fiance I refuse to live in a house that I don't own, and she knows exactly why. All 3 of them got very upset with me. So am I the a-hole?
Whew. All right.
Friday.
This one's interesting. OP is trying to fulfill a dream of his parents. His parents were immigrants. They worked hard. They scraped by. They got their kids good educations, so that way they could live a better life than they got. It sounds like it worked. So kudos to your parents. In essence, that's basically the dream, and they got to do it. That's fantastic. I can understand the son wanting to get to that goal for his parents. That's pretty cool, especially because all of their hard work translated into your hard work, translating into this goal being met. It's amazing when you can see something get to the end. I can get where his viewpoint is coming from. Now, I can also see where his fiance's parents are giving them a home to start off their life with. So that's pretty cool. It's very weird that they're forcing a prenup on him when he already says it. He's making more money. They're putting the house in her name, not their name. So I can get where all of that kind of stings a little bit. I think they're not really looking at it more towards what she's making and more like what she stands to inherit and get later down the road through them.
I can see that.
So that's where I think maybe he's looking at it as how, that really sucked that you guys are basically pinning me out to be some long-term gold digger, maybe, which it doesn't sound like this is the case here. I don't think he's the a-hole for having the viewpoint he does, especially when it came at the parents and how that whole situation happened. It sounds very weird though. The only way I see that working is if they had already a weird viewpoint of him.
Possibly.
Like he's the street rat and they're just trying to protect what the family is.
Apparently we're going to call him Aladdin now.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. I can get it. The fiance would know how important this is for him to own a home.
Correct, which is why it's probably very shocking that for him, he sees all 3 of them got upset with him.
I'm going to have to say I don't think he's the a-hole. I like his story.
Well, I've got an update.
Oh?
So let's buckle up because this is a long one.
Oh, no. I'm here for it.
So I was requested to add some information that I included in the comments into my post. And I also just had a long conversation with my fiance and my in-laws, so I have a small update to share as well. Here's the info from the comments. The hilarious part of the whole prenup conversation was that they basically said that they expected the prenup to only cover premarital and inherited assets. They said they would absolutely refuse to accept any clauses that include future assets. So if I want to own a home where only my name is on the title, I have to purchase it before the marriage and also make sure to never use any of my wife's money to pay the mortgage or anything. Apparently, they already had their lawyer write the whole thing up, but wanted to give me a heads up so I can retain my own lawyer to review it. I have a suspicion that any lawyer is going to think it's massively unfair just based on how they've described it, and I'm assuming that they think I'll just get a cheap lawyer because of my upbringing. Admittedly, I don't know any better, so this is kind of difficult for me to determine what's fair and isn't fair here, but it doesn't seem fair to me. Besides that though, it's also just a personal thing. I want to live in a house that I own, not them, not my wife alone. I'm happy to live in a home that both my wife and I own, but not one she owns on her own. I don't want someone else living in the home that I own. I want to live in it myself. I also should mention that currently my fiance and I share our finances. She makes about $120K USD and I make about $250K USD. We split things according to income, so I pay around 2/3 and she pays around 1/3. Based on our conversations, my fiance and I both expected this arrangement to continue after marriage. As for the update, well, I'll start with my fiance's older sister, 29 female, if it's relevant, calling me out of the blue a few hours ago to tell me that her parents did not ask her husband to sign a prenup before they got married. Both of my fiance's sisters and my fiance's brother-in-law were at the dinner where her parents talked about the house, so they both heard the whole conversation. My fiance's sister thought I deserved to know. My fiance's brother-in-law comes from a well-off family as well, but I don't know how well off or whether they are on the same level as my fiance's family or just upper middle class. Their wedding was pretty extravagant. My fiance's family is white and American, as is the brother-in-law. I am Pakistani. I don't believe her parents are racist, but it seemed like this information was important according to the comments. Anyway, about 3 hours ago, my fiance finally came home. She had stayed at her parents' house because we'd gotten into quite the argument. I was expecting her to continue the argument, but she actually came and apologized straight away. Apparently, her younger sister, 22 female, chewed her out after I left her parents' house. She really laid into my fiance on how she was being inconsiderate because everyone knew how important owning my home was to me. She also said that her parents weren't treating me right or equally. That made my fiance see my side, as she said, but she was too embarrassed, which is why she didn't come home last night. If you can't tell, I'm a huge fan of my fiance's little sister right now. She's always been a sort of no-nonsense firecracker type of girl, while my fiance is a bit of a people pleaser and definitely a daddy's girl. And she's always kind of vying for her father's approval. My fiance has even said she knows she needs to work through that before we get married. I'm going to buy her sister a cupcake. Then showed her the post and she got pretty uncomfortable reading a lot of the comments, especially the ones saying that she doesn't care about me. She also got really uncomfortable when she read the comments about her parents being racist. I pressed on that a bit and she went on to mention that they've never been overtly racist, that they did make comments when we first started dating about being concerned about our future, specifically about our children looking different and being treated poorly by her family. They asked her many times if she was sure about me. Like I said, I don't believe they're racist, but I do understand that they probably have some biases. This was also the case when they said they didn't want to do any traditional Pakistani events for the wedding. That was fine by me anyway, so I didn't really care, but now it makes me think a bit. I explained to her how I was feeling like I was going into this as an unequal partner, and she absolutely agreed that it wasn't fair. She even said she was going to tell her parents that she was going to refuse to sign the prenup. I told her to slow down because she was going between extremes. I told her that we still needed to get the prenup because her family was already having difficulty accepting me and this was going to make it worse. However, I told her that under no circumstances was I signing anything her parents had a part in drafting, and that we would each retain our own lawyers outside of her parents' influence and get something that is fair and equitable. She agreed. We then talked about the house, and she said she was going to tell her parents that she wasn't going to accept unless both of our names were on it. I told her to slow down again, and I got her to agree to me paying for a quarter of it. My initial proposal was to pay half, but she said that what I said about it being a wedding present so it should be for both of us, was true. So we came to the agreement that we would each get half ownership of the house, with her parents paying for 75% of it and me using the money I have saved plus a small mortgage for the other 25%. Both of our names will be on the title. We then called her parents together and told them our plan. They grumbled about it a bit initially, especially because her dad was still upset that I had been so ungrateful, but eventually we were able to talk it through, and they agreed to the plan. I doubt that this is the last I hear about this, but at least for now, it seems like the situation is mostly resolved.
Well, they are racist. We can go ahead and start with that.
Yes, that is pretty... It's not just biases here. He's just being polite because that's his future in-laws.
Obviously loves his fiance very much to have dealt with her family the way he has. But yes, you're right, though. At least you're not naive in the fact that you think this is the last scuff up you're going to have with her parents. You're trying to work with the cards you've been dealt with. I can understand that. So good for you. Retain your lawyer, like you said, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be a lifelong thing for you and your wife.
Well, that was pretty long and dramatic, wasn't it?
Yo.
So let's go ahead and make it a little more lighthearted. And let me just let you know who our next poster's name is. Their name is Pizza Girla.
Mamma mia.
For our next story, am I the a-hole for eating the toppings off my boyfriend's pizza?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Wow, I didn't even...
Yes, you are.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll still go anyway. Earlier tonight, I ordered a Hawaiian pizza with my boyfriend.
No, you're not. You can do that. Mm-mm.
No? Okay, she can take the pizza toppings off?
She can take the toppings.
We've only been dating a month, so it's the first time I ate pizza with him. We only finished about half, and then we went to watch TV. I was still hungry, so I ate all the toppings off the pizza. When he saw, he absolutely flipped out. He said that he was saving it for lunch tomorrow and that he had never met anyone who would do anything like this and was just generally really upset. I thought he was joking and laughed it off, but it's been a couple hours and he is still upset. He's talking about how he was looking forward to having the leftover pizza for lunch, and now I've ruined his lunch. I offered to buy him another pizza, but he kept saying that it wasn't about that, and I just ruined his day. Is he overreacting, or am I the a-hole?
He's overreacting, but I still stand by what I said. Pineapple pizza is wrong.
Is it desecration on pizza?
It shouldn't exist. Okay? But you're allowed to have it if you want. Anyway. Yeah, your boyfriend's definitely overreacting. That should probably send up some red flags. You're not the a-hole in this situation. You even offered to get him another pizza.
I think if it wasn't for her offering, then we'd staple it with the hard one.
Like, if it really hurt you that bad, guy, like, toppings? Are we seriously getting petty over toppings? And then to keep bringing it up, I would seriously look at him. You said you've been dating your boyfriend for about a month. If he's showing you that this early, if it's something this small and inconsequential as toppings for a pizza, I can only imagine how he'll treat you when, like, real things are happening. And what he deems important or how he treats you. Because it sounds like he's got a passive-aggressive streak. Because if you thought he was joking it off for a couple hours and then he keeps bringing it up, I don't know. Again, he might just love his pizza. Maybe he's just that person and that's why he's acting like that. So I might be overjudging him. But yes, you're not the a-hole.
Well, all of Reddit says the opposite. They say she is the a-hole. They say when you purchase something that is technically half owned by the other person, you shouldn't be doing anything like that. You should be asking permission. It's considered a respect boundary. Now, had the pizza been fully hers, then that's a different story. It's her pizza, but it wasn't purchased. It was purchased between the two of them. And she did something that he found very gross. Now, apparently, when it comes to a lot of Redditors, they think this whole thing is weird and disgusting. And unfortunately, I'm going to jar our listeners because I kind of do that with my pizza. And the only reason that I like to do it is I enjoy the toppings by themselves. That's why I put it on the pizza, because I think it enhances the pizza. But when it comes to things like mushrooms and reheating it, it turns almost slimy, and I don't really like that per se.
I don't eat Voyse's pizza without her eating the toppings first.
Well, that's because you don't like the toppings. So you're fine with it, because for you, it turns into a cheese pizza.
Yep.
Now, it would be different Because for you, if I went to your pizza or your half of your pizza and started eating all your toppings and didn't tell you like, hey, is it okay for me to have this? I think that'd be a different game.
I guess maybe I'm looking at that situation as more like a married situation where I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, they've only been dating a month. They're really, if this thing's even going to last.
I was right when I said maybe I'm overjudging the situation.
I think here it does offer a lot. One, I don't think that she's fully the a-hole, only because she offered to replace the full pizza.
Yeah, she's going to buy another pizza.
But at that point for him, he was just so upset.
Having to go through the process of buying another pizza and all this stuff.
It's just when the other party's trying to fix it and you're not accepting those fixes.
Yeah.
When does it become not okay?
Well, that's where
right?
I'm like,
when is it not truly a
flag,
relationship anymore?
Red flag issue coming up where if he's still being passive aggressive hours later about a situation that you could have solved. I understand the mistake. We all make mistakes in the relationship. We rub someone wrong doing something, but I guess I don't like that part of it. But all right, I can see, fair enough. She's a hero for eating the toppings on that pizza.
She's a hero?
She's a hero.
Is it because of the pineapple?
Yes.
You're not a fan of the pineapple?
She's a hero.
Well, let's walk away from this hero. And let's go to our next story. Am I the a-hole for showing my sister's baby photos to her boyfriend? So my 22 male sister, Mary, 17 female, had really bad atopic dermatitis, eczema, when she was younger. It gradually left as she was a teen. I guess she's really insecure about it because she tries to avoid photos of herself as a little kid. Anyway, my sister brought her boyfriend over for dinner last Sunday to introduce him to the family. Things were going well. Usually, when my sisters bring over their boyfriends, my dad or me shows their baby photos as a nice little gesture that brings out laughs and ahs. So I was going to show her boyfriend some of her baby photos while my sister was talking to our dad about something in the kitchen. I brought over the album of baby photos, and her boyfriend just started speaking about how cute she was as a kid. My sister came over, asked what we were doing, and her boyfriend just told her baby photos. She just looked at me and immediately snatched it out of my hands and started shouting at me, saying I had gone against her and was practically humiliating her in front of her boyfriend and that she thought I had changed. Her boyfriend tried to tell her there was no problem, but she was angry and looked close to crying, so just left the house. When my sister returned, Dad told her that her reaction was unnecessary and that her baby photos were not even that bad and told her she was grounded for 2 weeks as a result of her behavior. She just called me a dickhead and left. And then Sunday has not been talking to me. The situation has been all I can think about for the past 2 days. Most people I ask say I'm not in the wrong, but I feel as if that's because they have some favoritism towards me. Would appreciate the honest opinions of people who are unbiased. Am I the a-hole?
I mean, I guess I'll start like this. I've never heard of when you go over to someone's house that the brother shows the baby pictures to the boyfriend.
Yeah, generally
that's
that
more
seems
like
to be a
parent,
yeah.
So that's kind of weird. So I wonder what the angle was for that, if there was anything behind it. But that's normally not something that happens. A sibling does that with I mean, he does say, though, prior boyfriends, I guess, that have come to the house have been shown these pictures. So maybe it is a family thing they like to do with new boyfriends. Kind of a weird tradition, but everyone has their own thing. As far as the reaction of your sister, she's 17. It doesn't matter what you tell a kid about what they look like when they're kids. It doesn't make them feel any better. It has to come through their eyes first. So I can understand the way someone could feel and not wanting others to see their photos. Regardless of what you think or say about them, they have a feeling and that's what matters. So I would almost want to ask, it kind of sounds like he knows that she doesn't want him showing photos because she says, I thought you changed. So this has happened before. This is sounds like not a first time offense to this problem. I caught you.
I honestly don't know. There is no true update to this.
No, but am I making sense?
But you and Redditors are kind of in line when it comes to that statement.
I think he's the a-hole, and I think it's because of that. It's not his first rodeo with this offense. So, yeah, unfortunately, dude, you are, and you might need to go get a different hobby outside of it sounds like embarrassing your sister for the umpteenth time.
Well, as you can imagine, the Redditors also said he is very much the a-hole. In fact, a lot of them say you literally in your first little paragraph say reasons as to why she avoids pictures of her being younger. And to go so far as to go ahead and you know that she's self-conscious about this.
Sure.
You know that she's talked about her boyfriend and was probably very excited to have him come over to introduce him for the first time.
Yeah, that's always a very nerve-wracking experience for everyone involved.
And then you take out her baby photos that you know she's very sensitive about and decide to show it while she's not around to even say anything.
Yeah.
And expect that she's going to be okay with it. And then additionally, yes, that comment that you said where he puts it in quotations, she thought I had changed, shows that he was actually pretty cruel to her before.
Yeah.
And this thing started repairing and then he messed it up.
It's interesting how he outs himself in his own writing.
On top of that, I think it's almost narcissistic, in my opinion, when at the very end, he says, people I ask say I'm not in the wrong, but I feel as if that's because they have some favoritism towards me. It's a very narcissistic comment to actually say, because you're saying people as if it includes everybody that the two of them know and say that they favor him over her. So everything just turns me sideways when it comes to this whole post. I mean, clearly a lot of Redditors tagged it right, and our poster has not commented or updated on anything.
Hopefully he's learned from posting that, because it sounds like he does need to grow up a little bit and he owes his sister an apology.
Definitely. If that will even help their
won't,
relationship.
because it sounds like he's a repeat offender.
Well, let's go on to our next story. And just to warn you, it might pull at your heartstrings a little.
Uh-oh.
Am I the a-hole for giving away my son's room since he is no longer with us? I, 35 female, lost my 1-year-old son, Adam, 6 years ago in a tragic accident. I was not home at the time, but my ex-husband Rob, 37 male, was napping at the time our son passed. I did not blame him because it was a tragic accident and something that could have happened regardless of who was with him. My ex, on the other hand, could not process his guilt, and no matter how much therapy he received, he could not move forward. We amicably split about 4 years ago when he decided that he did not want any more children, and I realized I could not just be a bereaved mom, but also wanted to be a mom to a child in this life. I stayed in the home we shared since it was mine before we married, but I promised my ex he could continue to come over and spend time in our son's room because he felt close to Adam when he was in the room. He continued to do this until I married Sam, 39 mil, about 2 years ago. We did not live together until then, and he was okay with Rob coming over even after we did. For a while, Rob would stop in once or twice a month, but when I became pregnant last year, he all but stopped coming. He may have come once for our son's birthday. So here is the issue. My house has 4 bedrooms. I have a stepson, 8, who spends 3 nights a week with us, so he has a room. We have 1, and in August of last year, my husband started a remote job. So while we originally intended to leave Adam's room intact, we made the decision to make that the baby's nursery and the 4th room my husband's office. I delayed our plans to decorate since I wanted my ex to be aware of the plan. I sent him a few texts that I wanted to talk to him about something important and tried calling a couple of times. I started to believe I might never hear from him again. I wasn't shocked because he was not thrilled that I was having another baby. After 3 weeks of no response, we began the really difficult process of packing away my son's items and redoing the room for my daughter Sarah, who we welcomed in November. My ex reached out after months of no contact and asked if he could stop by on our son's birthday next week. I had to tell him that the room was no longer intact, and he became irate. He told me I was the a-hole for not giving him a chance to see the room one last time. I feel like I tried to reach out a couple times with no response. He accused me of replacing our child with my new family. He is now demanding every single item that belonged to our son because everything is still packed away in the basement. I do have plans for the more treasured items. Am I the a-hole for not telling him even when he didn't respond?
Okay. So this is a very sad story, like you said. For clarification, she was married to her ex about 4 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. And unfortunately, their son passed away. Through no fault of their own, unfortunately, it happened. And it broke the marriage apart. She wanted to move on with life and have a kid. He did not want to have any more kids after this event.
Correct.
I feel for everyone in this story. I think before I go any further, I would say that your ex-husband needs to go get some therapy, because it doesn't sound like he's handled or has grieved in the way he should be, because it sounds like a fresh thing that keeps happening to him. He's going back to the room where it happened. I understand that everyone grieves in their own way and everyone needs their own time, but you have moved on with your life, and him bringing all of that every single time probably can't be easy. That's something that I'm not saying you're forgetting it, but you are
almost reliving it
every single time. And I can't imagine that pain. I'm so sorry for the both of you to have gone through that loss. So I can see it from his point of view, not being able to get over that, because I couldn't imagine that pain. But that doesn't give him the right to basically keep a hold of that room when it's not his home anymore. She's moved on. The OP sounds like she's trying to make a better life. You're not the a-hole. I don't even know if he's the a-hole. I understand his anger, but he needs to find a better outlet for it, and he needs to move on. Like, you can't keep living in that past, because it's to the detriment. I don't see any win there for him. He wants the stuff. You know what? Talk about the stuff. Figure out who's keeping what, and then move on, because it's probably not healthy for you either to keep having one foot in the past like that.
Well, all of the Redditors have also said she's not the a-hole. And unfortunately, the situation is hard. There were some that wondered if she could have tried more. I'd say calling for 3 weeks and trying to get in contact with him.
To that, though, how much more could she have tried? She allowed him to keep coming back to the home over 4 years, to the bedroom on the child's birthday, when she found a new partner, right? How much more do you expect from someone in that understanding? That's where I'm like, there was so much already that she had given to him through this loss. How much more did you expect for her to keep giving him when it wasn't being handled properly anyway?
And she was also still suffering a loss.
Exactly.
The only thing that I can say when it comes to what commenters had said is her text, because she didn't explicitly say in her text that she was changing the room at all. She kept, I guess, saying to her ex that she needed to talk to him about something important. And keeping it so vague could have been one of the things that, I mean, as an ex, if somebody were to ever contact you and said, I have something really important to talk to you about, do you really feel the necessity to want to talk to them if they're not telling you right then and there what that important thing is about? I'm only saying this because communication is so important. And our poster did answer and say one of the reasons why she kept it kind of vague was because she didn't want to set him off. She wanted this to be more of like a verbal, like, I'm telling you in person,
Sure.
or more respectfully than just something over a text. But a lot of people said you could have just put more details as to what you were doing, even if it might have seemed callous, because if he's not answering your call, you need to tell him of these major changes. If the understanding for him was this was how things were going to be, you should have set more of a precedence as to this is changing now.
And I get that part. Believe me, I understand what they're trying to say is you should have made it less vague for their conversation. But
I do see it from yours.
I go back to, she's allowed him to keep a hold of that room for 4 years after their relationship was over. How many people are doing that? I understand the situation is very difficult, but it's almost as if you're telling me that it was right for him to expect ownership of that room for the rest of her life when he moved on and chose to not want what she wanted for the rest of their lives, right? How many people get divorced and own a room? Is that proper?
No, I've never heard of it myself at all.
But that's where I'm looking at, yes.
Unless it's court ordered.
The fact that she allowed him to keep coming back, and then the current husband allowed for that to happen. It's not just his life. He's invading now her life with her new family. And now for him to say that she's replacing him, that's callous in and of itself. So I feel like because he's handled it so wrong and they've not, I hate saying coddled, but it almost sounds like that's what happened. And everyone's just kid gloving him around, and it's devolved into, I own that room. You don't understand this loss. But she felt the same loss. But now she's also having to deal with him when she's tried to move on. That's where I'm like, you can get me all day with the argument of that she should have been more descriptive, but she gave him years of him coming in and doing this.
Well, I know some commenters were saying, be careful.
Sure.
Because from what she was explaining, over time he's gotten more angry and almost more unhinged. And somebody
saying that's why she's allowed him to have that room, because she's afraid of him?
Who knows? Regardless, a lot of people are saying you need to go ahead and make sure to put your family first, because now you have a small child, 2 small children in your home, and your current husband.
And that's where I was trying to get at. She's been more than understanding. I understand the loss is great, but there's an extent, and I think he's past it long ago.
Well, that was a bit deep. So let's go ahead and go to our last story, which involves a birthday dinner. For our last story, am I the a-hole for turning away a friend after he showed up to my birthday dinner without RSVPing? I had a birthday dinner this weekend. A week before the dinner, I sent a mass text out to 8 of my friends telling them the location, date, and time, and to let me know by a certain date if they are coming so I can make a reservation at a hibachi place. Most people said they could come. One friend said they couldn't make it, and another friend never responded. A couple days later, I was talking to one of the friends I invited about the dinner, and they said that they thought the friend who didn't answer was coming, but they weren't sure. I said that he needs to RSVP so I have the proper head count for the reservation. I never heard from the friend who didn't respond, so I made the reservation accordingly. I should add that before I made the reservation, I texted in the mass text chain with the last chance to RSVP. I'm making the reservation at this time today. The day of my dinner, the friend who didn't respond showed up right as the hostess was asking for the name of the reservation. I told her that we had an extra person show up, and I apologized. She looked to see if she could place all of us, but was unable to find a place to accommodate an extra person without having to wait 2 hours. So I told the friend who didn't RSVP that he could not join us for dinner. He got mad and told me I was a bad friend. He told me it was embarrassing to be turned away from a birthday party and that he wasted time and gas coming out. I told him he should have RSVP'd. He told our friend that he might be going. I told him that wasn't good enough and he should have told me. He told me that I should have asked him if he was coming. Am I the a-hole? Edit. For those stating I should have assumed he was coming because another friend said he might be, I don't work off of hearsay, especially since the friend who said this is known for saying lots of things that don't turn out to be true or turn out to not happen. I never take what they say seriously. Am I the a-hole?
He already answers the question. The guy is untrustworthy at best as a friend. He shows up last minute to hibachi. And yeah, dude, hibachis are popular. Like, I don't want to wait 2 hours when we reserved a spot. And it was weeks out, right? They planned this thing.
Correct. And even a week out, he sent a mass text.
One last chance.
And was like, please let me know because at X and X, I'm going to go ahead and call in the reservation.
That might just be a friend you stop calling friend. You're definitely not the a-hole. I'm shocked that someone would show up after having the advance notice several times of whether or not you're coming. No, dude, I'd be the same exact way. If you're going to keep us, the whole party of people, from enjoying the time we have, because remember, they said 8 people were supposed to come to this. To get 8 people scheduled to fit all at once is an undertaking in and of itself. Time is precious. So if you're going to waste it and go, yeah, you guys got to wait 2 hours because this next guy who didn't even RSVP wants in, no, go eat at McDonald's. I don't know. But
well, we had a girl that left a wedding to go ahead and enjoy some McDonald's. Yeah. Maybe they can meet up. You never know.
Yeah. The OP is definitely not the a-hole. It just sounds like you figured out what person you don't want to call friend.
Well, a bunch of Redditors also say the same thing. And they say he's not the a-hole. Did I surprise you?
And I'm like, what? I thought, yeah, you got me. I thought I was about to say, sheesh.
It was almost April Fool's.
OP is the a-hole.
But yes, not the a-hole across the Reddit for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Our poster left them plenty of time between calling, and they even let the friend who tried to grapevine the info over, even let them know, hey, I'm not gonna RSVP just because you said so. He needs to let me know. Yeah. And that's definitely fair.
But he's just a bad friend. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Enjoy some pizza.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We will be posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
We look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.